Hi, I'm Dave Lavin, and this is my brother, Mike Lavin, and welcome to episode 2 of the Vermont Real Estate Cast. Thank you to everybody that tuned in to our previous cast. It is March 2022, and we are excited to bring you some exciting information about what's going on in the market and also talk about current issues that are facing buyers and sellers out there today. We're going to begin by talking about where the market is right now, and we're also going to discuss whether or not the rising energy prices are going to create any sort of slowdown in this market or a top to a market. So let's get right into it. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the current market right now?
Sure, I definitely can. Let's talk again about the greater Burlington metropolitan area, which is Chittenden County, Grand Isle County, and Franklin County. And we're going to look at single families and condos together. And let's take a look at February 2022, because February is not complete. We have those numbers. In that numbers I just described, there was 113 homes that were sold. Average days in the market was 30 days in the market. The average price was $413,000. And the average sold to list ratio, again, which is the comparison of where the property sold compared to where it was listed on average, was plus 2.7%. So in this last month, we saw properties selling 2.5% or more on average over the asking price. Wow. And if we compare that to February of 2021, let's take the same month, go back 1 year, February of 2021, okay. we saw more homes sold. 143 homes were sold in that same single-family condo market. The average days in the market was longer. It was 48 days. The average price was significantly lower. It was $367,000. And the average sold-to-list ratio was pretty close to being just negative 1%. So about a year ago, those homes were selling for about 1% below the asking price on average, and now they're about 2.5% over.
Wow. So even with, what gas hit, I think it was 440 or something like that. That's what I saw for the price of gasoline. And as you know, most Vermonters are heating their house with some form of oil-related product, whether it's heating oil, propane, you name it. As we were discussing earlier, the number one reason that people sell their home, according to all the data, I think this was pulled from Zillow. They interviewed millions of people, was because homes get too expensive, right? The cost of carrying the home gets too expensive, and they tend to want to sell it because of that rising cost. So do you see any signs that, like, hey, if with how expensive energy is, are we peaking out? Are we hitting sort of the top of the market? Or do you think these prices are going to continue to skyrocket upwards?
I mean, it's really hard to say for sure. It looks like with those February numbers that we didn't really see any softening in the market just yet. But you and I both know we've spoken to a lot of people that have expressed the same thing you just been saying, right, about having a home that's too big and too costly to heat right now. And then couple that with people talking about their cost for commuting, and their gas costs, depending on where they work, right? So I think we're going to see, we've seen some new properties come to market just in the last week or two. I think we're going to see more over the next month. And I think it's possible, I don't know for sure, I think it's possible that we will see a little bit about what you're talking about with people saying, hey, this home's a little too expensive for me to heat. I'm going to sell it to someone that can afford to heat it.
Right. Yeah.
And,
maybe
we'll see that happen. Yeah.
It's definitely, it's hard to, we're not commodities traders. It's hard to predict how long these prices will stay up there. They could come right back down. And that if that's the case, I don't think that we'll see any impact on the market, but you never know. I mean, if gas gets really high, maybe that will create some sort of top to this market, and we'll see more people having to sell. You mentioned commuting, which I think brings us to a good sort of segue here. We do our question and the answer every week or every month when we record this cast, and we actually had Andrew D., who wrote a comment on our last cast. We encourage you guys out there to do the same, like, subscribe, ask questions, text us at the number on the screen if you have questions that you want answered in one of our casts, something that's relating to what you're dealing with in the real estate market. But Andrew was asking he's looking to move here. He's not local. He wants to know, hey, is there a certain community in or near Burlington that's really going to sort of be the strongest place to live, that has the most potential upside, where maybe prices haven't skyrocketed? Or do you see, any opportunities, or you see any neighborhoods or towns, like, is South Burlington going to take off, or do you see any potential of any of those areas to really see a push higher faster than other markets if we continue to go down that route?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could say something about that. I mean, we've seen that Burlington right now has really sort of escalating property tax prices and issues right now with that. There's been a lot of debate about that in Burlington. And you and I have both seen buyers that have maybe had kids in the Burlington school system that were looking to get out of Burlington and looking towards the communities around there, like South Burlington, Essex, Milton, Colchester, Winooski, et cetera, and Williston, of course. And so I think if you're targeting, what Andrew was asking about, is there maybe a more of an up and coming area for that kind of thing, and maybe a great place to raise a family? I think all those communities within Chittenden County are great places to raise families. But if you're looking at one that might have an upward trend on the market from what you were talking about, I think maybe South Burlington, Milton, Williston, and Colchester and Essex are probably the ones you'd be looking at for that.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's sort of still a question mark on the Burlington high school situation. There's the taxes that have gone up.
There is, yeah.
And I think that might make it harder, even though the prices there still have, even with all that going on, continued to move up at a very rapid rate. Well, listen, I appreciate that information, and I know you're our sort of our market guru when it comes to the numbers, and thanks for sharing that valuable data with our audience. On sort of a similar topic, I'm excited to bring on a very special guest because, as everybody knows out there, it's a crazy market. We're seeing 20, 30 offers, and I think one of the biggest complaints or questions I get is, hey, Dave, how do I compete with all cash buyers? How do I deal with that? Well, we are bringing on a very special guest for this final segment of this cast, and that is Phil Ganz from Fairway Mortgage. Phil is a true expert when it comes to mortgages. I've been working with him for over 20 years, and when it comes to a guy that really knows financing and how to set up your financial situation so that you can compete with something like a cash offer, he's a true guru expert when it comes to this. And so we're really pleased to welcome Phil Ganz. Phil, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing so well, and thank you so much to have me on as a guest. It's a true honor to be here and to enlighten your audience.
Awesome, Phil. Well, hey, thanks for joining us, and let's get right into this, Phil. The reason I want to bring you on, and Phil's going to be a quarterly guest with us because as markets change, these questions will change. Not every market is going to always be a crazy offer where you're competing against cash offers type market. But Phil, we were just having a conversation the other day, and this is why I wanted to bring you on, because I think you've really shed some light on this. I'm a buyer, and I'm ripping my hair out because I'm trying to compete against all cash buyers, and I just have a standard pre-approval letter. Is there something or product that you guys are working with now that you're able to offer customers that allows them to compete? And can you share that with our audience?
Yes. So we offer full approval. The most important thing is to realize how sellers are actually making decisions. There's three buckets. The first bucket is a cash offer, and a cash offer is really a letter of credit from the bank. So they go to the bank, they say, hey, this is how much money you can get. The next thing is to get a full commitment letter. Is where we actually verify, we send to underwriting, we guarantee the funds, we send to underwriting, and it's a full commitment letter, so it's a guarantee. And then the third bucket is pre-approval. It's basically a Word doc. And the big advantage of cash and full approval is that the seller doesn't have to take the property off the market to realize that the funds are guaranteed. Now, in every relationship, it typically goes, there's three things: introduction, commonalities, and unique value proposition. Well, when you have far more buyers than sellers, that the relationship's inverse. That the seller will start with their unique value proposition. What that is no contingencies. Right. They want zero contingencies. If you have a mortgage contingency or you have other contingencies, they're not going to want that. So that's the most important. After they establish no contingencies, and that's what a full commitment letter is and what a cash offer is, they'll then go to commonality, which is price. And if you meet their no contingencies, their price, then they'll look at the picture that you sent to them or the letter that you wrote.
Right.
But they don't really care about that. All they care about is the guarantee that the money is there.
Right.
And way it's kind of explained to the buyer, the way a typical bank or lender will explain it to the buyer is through the eyes of the home buyer, the home buying process.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doesn't matter because you're not making a decision on the house. The seller is. And there's 20 of you and one of them.
Right.
And it's just like watching like a TV show, The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, where there's one contestant called The Bachelorette or Bachelor and a whole bunch of other people trying to compete.
Yep.
And that's what's really important, to understand. And that's the reason why they always pick up a runner-up to be, the Bachelor, the Bachelorette, because they understand the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So if you want a real opportunity to win, at Monopoly or buy a home, you got to understand the rules of the game. And I would recommend to get fully approved.
Yes.
Because it's so much better of a process.
Right. So on the full approval, it sounds like, I mean, pre-approval versus full approval, you really want to have that. It almost doesn't make sense to not have a full approval if you know you're going to be competing against cash buyers in this market. With that full approval, can we submit an offer that doesn't have like a true mortgage contingency in it? Is it at that level like a cash buyer would be, or is there some...
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Not only is it there, I'm actually going to give you $100 Amazon gift card for you to get fully approved. And the reason is because it saves everyone their time. It saves the buyer their time, both agents their time, the seller time.
Yep.
They had to look at something ridiculous because by law they have to look at ridiculous offers. It saves everyone time.
Yeah.
So give you $100 Amazon gift card, which will help it. But there's no commitment. And I want to really tell people this: we don't ask for any credit cards, any commitment. The only difference is you allow us to send the file into underwriting. You sign the loan disclosures. The address is to be determined.
Right.
That is not a real address. The rate's the qualifying rate. It's not your actual rate. And we give you the commitment. And the reality is you're going to get a commitment no matter what, either near the end of the loan process or at the beginning.
Yeah.
The difference is if you do it at the beginning, you're more likely to acquire the assets, and you're going to more likely to pay less for the house because you're not in this competing versus all these offers.
Yeah, because you're already making yourself stronger right up front. So it sounds like if you go what's a full commitment pre-approval, right? It's fully underwritten. So I guess the only thing that needs to be there in order for you guys to close the loan, which should take a couple weeks, is they got to do the title work like even a cash buyer would. Inspections, if they're planning on doing inspections, which some buyers are foregoing either way, even with pre-approvals, because they know that's what they have to do to compete.
Or even with cash, right?
Right,
even with
sure.
cash, they have to waive it.
Yeah, they'll waive it, and then the final one would just be making sure that it appraises. But you were mentioning, right? So I'm a buyer putting down 20%. Nothing's appraising right now for what it's really selling for, right? Everything's selling for 5-10% above where the appraiser's at, because appraisers haven't fully caught up to the market, and that's always sort of been a trend in these hot markets. What happens in that scenario, even with a full commitment, if it doesn't appraise? Are you guys able to adjust what the requirements are for them to be able to close the loan so that they don't have the cash to do it? You know what I'm saying?
We can lend up to $1.75 million. That's a loan.
That's a lot for Vermont. There's very few homes that even go for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
With as little as 3.5% down. So I tell people this.
Okay.
I'm like, if you go with Fairway, you say, well, what's the unique value proposition? I'll tell you, speed to respond, always available, and we help you acquire the asset.
Right.
So we have the programs to help you acquire the assets, and it's simple as that.
Yeah.
And then later, look, even if it didn't appraise, let's say you have PMI, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we can get an appraisal to remove the PMI.
Yeah.
Right? Because you could then use your house as a comparable property.
Sure.
So I would tell anyone, we're in the business of helping people acquire assets and homes. That's what really it is.
That's a great way of looking at it. Well, geez, man, that's really valuable information. I think that sort of, we could talk about mortgages and financing all day, but, we like to keep this real estate cast pretty concise because we know viewers can only hang on for so long. And I think this is probably the most pressing issue right now for anybody watching out there that's been in this market. They know it is frustrating competing against cash buyers. And it sounds like this is an amazing product that can work. I'm going to have all your contact information down below in the video. So if you're watching this video on YouTube or wherever you are, you can go down and get connected to Phil. Phil, what's the best way once they hit that? I think what they do, they set an appointment on your calendar to talk with you directly if they want to speak with you.
Yeah, so not only talk, you can actually meet me just like as we're doing right now on a Zoom.
Okay, awesome.
Right? So we can go over it and rap a little bit, get to know each other.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Phil. Again, this is Phil Ganz from Fairway Mortgage. He's our special mortgage expert that will be on future casts. We're going to try to bring him on quarterly. as the markets turn, and so that he can advise and answer questions that we're seeing from people out there in the field. And thanks, Mike, for all the market information. I'm Dave Lavin. This is my brother, Mike Lavin, and we are the Lavin team. And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of the Vermont Real Estate Cast. Have a great day.